Good morning, YouTube. It's 10 a.m. in the great state of Texas, and we are celebrating our third year here on YouTube. And this is a tradition on this channel that what we do on our birthday, our YouTube birthday at least, is take everything we've done in the past, or at least some of the stuff we've done in the past, mix it all up in epoxy, and make a cool bowl out of it. And that's what we're going to do in today's project. We are going to make a birthday bowl, essentially. So what you see here is some confetti. This is like some, I forget what this stuff is, tinsel. That's what this is called, tinsel. So taking some tinsel we had left over for some previous projects. I think one was a New Year's bowl, last year's Christmas project, some leftover colored pencils. As you see here, we did a pencil bowl in the summer of 2021. Gonna add that to it. We didn't use all of the pencils, obviously. And this is a piece of leftover epoxy that I had from another project that didn't work out, that I ended up wanting to turn into like an egg and then just never got around to it. So we're going to end up cutting that down and adding that to today's bowl. And this is our third year on YouTube. December 2nd, 2018, I started this channel. And in the beginning, I was doing a lot of different stuff on the channel, didn't know what direction I wanted to initially take it. But we ended up settling on being a woodworking channel. And I like that. So we've been doing woodworking and just creative stuff ever since. So we're also going to add every piece of glitter, every piece of dye that I've ever used on this channel. We're going to add that all up into some epoxy and make something cool. So a technique I've been using recently, not in some videos that you guys are going to watch, but this is like a clear piece of epoxy that I set up on the bottom. So a lot of people complain that the big waste block kind of takes away from the aesthetic of the project when it's finished, which I agree. So what I ended up doing was just taking a cube of clear epoxy, putting it to the bottom, attaching it to the waste block so that when we turn it down, you won't even see the pine and it won't take away from the aesthetic of the bowl, which I agree, which, you know, I think that really looks a lot better. So all we're going to do is cut down all of the stuff. There's the epoxy, mix it all up together, and colored pencils, and now we're going to start adding our pigments, dyes, and glitter to our project bowl. And if you guys have been watching my channel for a while, you can see that I've come a very long way in the past 3 years. I hope you guys, after watching this video, go back and watch some of my early videos, my early woodworking videos. I put a video up when I first got my lathe, the first thing I ever made. We have come a long, long way in 3 years. It's one of those things where they say, you know, if you don't, you know, continuously hone your craft, you get worse. But I am by no means a master or I would say, a beginner anymore. I'm more of I'm not even intermittent, or not intermittent, middle. What's the word for middle? I don't even know. I'm not even middle of the road. I'm a lot better than when I started 3 years ago, but I'm not a master, I guess I'll say. I'm more of a novice. I'm a pro novice. I guess that's the best way to describe it. So 5-quart bucket, filled everything up. 4.5 hours later in the pressure pot, you can see all of this stuff, and it looks a little sketchy in the beginning. So we got some significant cracks in here that you guys will see a little bit later in the project. But you can see all the cool glitter. Some of it has the epoxy in it. You can see one of the cracks there. The tinsel in there. The bottom looks absolutely amazing. I hate that everything always settles to the bottom, but it's one of those things where it's like you can't help what happens in the pressure pot a lot of the time. So here we go. Everything's nice and just mixed up, and this is going to be our birthday project, and it's going to turn out absolutely amazing in my opinion, even though we've got some obstacles to overcome. So 4.5 hours, that's what it looks like. Now we're just sanding off the top because, you know, the epoxy wasn't enough to absolutely cover the top. So, oh, and if you're curious of why I added those popsicle sticks, it's because things tend to float in the epoxy, so I was trying to prevent that. So I just went back and just put some popsicle sticks on the side, glue gunned them up, just so everything wouldn't float to the top. So that's why the popsicle sticks are there, if you were curious. So now all we're going to do is get the faceplate on and get everything nice and level, and then we're going to get this bad boy onto the lathe and continue mission with making our birthday project. So here we go, throwing that on the lathe there. We're still using that same old Nova Comet 2 lathe, and if you're new into woodworking, this is a great piece of kit. This is the first lathe I've ever bought or ever used, and you know, for the price, I think it's well worth it. It's definitely surprised me in a lot of different ways. So getting that superficial layer off, initially had a lot of problems with that. You can see there were getting like dust and stuff instead of nice clean ribbon, so I had to come back and hit it with the round carbide tool. The actual bowl gouge wasn't being very effective when I was trying to get that superficial layer off. Had a lot of problems initially. Had to come back with a couple of different chisels just to get everything nice and evened out before we moved on to the actual gouging portion of it. And you can see here, everything's going, relatively nice and easy. What you couldn't tell from the video is that there was a lot of vibration on the lathe itself. I was actually pushing my hip up against the workbench just to hit it up against the wall so that everything would be nice and stable, because that's what was causing that chip out in the beginning, was just all of that movement. So now we're just coming back and hitting it with a round carbide tool, making everything nice and smooth. You can see me resting the actual tool on top of the blank itself, trying to get everything nice and round and even. And a little bit later in the video, you'll see some of the cracks and damage that we had. And the camera was kind of zooming in. I didn't know that it had it zoomed in so close. But this is kind of a cool angle. You just can't see some of the work that I'm doing there on the bottom toward the tailstock. But there, yeah. My editing skills in 3 years have gotten immensely better. Go back and watch my older videos, because definitely, in spite of how much I might think that my editing skills aren't very good, they have definitely come a long way since my previous bowls that I did early on on the channel. So 3 years on YouTube, what have I learned? I've learned a lot about wood turning. I've gotten a lot better, obviously, and I think I'm only going to get better. Eventually, I've been saying this for about 1.5 years now, I want to get a bigger lathe, but I think what I'm going to end up doing is just burning out this lathe until it doesn't work anymore, and then I'm going to step it up to like an intermittent, or there I go saying intermittent, an intermediate bowl, or intermediate lathe is what I'm talking about. So I'm going to do that eventually. You can see some of the cracks here. This kind of had me concerned. So anytime I see cracks like this, a lot of the time I've got to be real careful with the gouging, because I've had it, go back and watch my old videos, I've had issues where big cracks like that, I would start the gouging portion, hit a part that wasn't attached completely, and have had things fly off the lathe and hit me in the face. So I have to be really careful with that. So setting up to the banjo to the appropriate height that we want to work. Now we're just taking the parting tool, trying to get a mortise going here. And I used to make tan-ins. If you go back and watch some of my early videos, I used to do tan-ins instead of mortises, or mortise. I don't even know the appropriate term for that. But we've moved on to making mortises. That's the technique that I've been using for a while, and it's worked out pretty good. So now that I know how to do that, again, if you're interested in woodworking, just get a lathe. It doesn't have to be a super expensive one, and just start, because I was completely new to woodworking when I first started this. I didn't take shop in high school. I'm not very mechanically inclined. I just said one day, I saw a video on YouTube, and I was like, I could probably do that. I need a hobby. So that's how we started this channel, was just with no experience, and then just took it one thing at a time, watched a lot of YouTubers, and started my own little, I guess, YouTube journey, you could say. So if you're interested in doing this, the best thing to do is just start, just like every other person is probably going to tell you, just start. And you don't have to get all of the equipment at first. You can just, I think I started off with a lathe, and that was it, and the basic set of chisels that I bought off of Amazon. And look at us now, we're doing amazing work, or at least I think I'm doing amazing work. Camera angles need some help. A couple of times you guys are just looking at my head more than anything else. I need to work on that. A little bit crowded to where I have the camera, so that has a lot to do with why the angle looks so kind of wonky a little bit. But hey, make sure to wear your face equipment. That's another thing I didn't do in the beginning, was I had facial equipment, but I didn't take it as serious. I guess if you get hit in the face enough with shrapnel coming from an epoxy bowl enough times, you learn, hey, wear your safety equipment. Safety first, people. So here's a little bit better angle of all these cracks that are in there. You can see how deep they are, and some of them are pretty significantly deep. And I was going to go back and add epoxy to them, but I thought the crevices were big enough but still small enough to where I wasn't even going to be able to get epoxy in there. Could have used CA glue, but I decided, we'll risk the biscuit and just go for it. Because if you know anything about this channel, I always show my failures no matter what. So I decided, hey, if this blows up, just another great, way to demonstrate that, hey, not everything goes the way you planned. So Initially going through the pine board had a lot of ease with that. You can see how fast we're working that down, cutting through the pine board like butter. But once you start working the edges, that's where it gets a little bit more sketchy. So you saw those big cracks in there, and essentially what you need to be careful with is how wide do you want the sides of the bowl to be, because the wider you go, the less likely it is to explode, and the more you eat away at those cracks and divots, the more likely something is to explode off the lathes because there's not an attachment point. So had to be real careful. Use several different types of chisels on this one, different variety of sizes concerning the bowl gouges and the round and square carbide tool. So getting initially to the bottom, and that's the other great thing about having that cube on the bottom. Once you go through the pine board and you see the cube, you know you've hit the appropriate depth, and you can just essentially stop the gouging portion of it and then start just working on the sides more or less. So this part went a little bit wonky. I had some issues with it. Some parts of it were a little bit easier than others, but overall I would say I was surprised that the bowl held up. But again, that just goes to having experience. So if you get into woodworking and you really like it, in my opinion, you're going to have a lot of failures, you're going to have a lot of setbacks, but I think you learn something with each and every project that you do. I certainly have over the past 3 years. And going forward into this is going to be our 4th year on YouTube that we're going to be working on. We've had 3 behind us, and this next year, as long as work doesn't take me out of the wood shop, I'm going to start doing things like metal projects a lot more. I've got a plasma cutter, I got a welder, I've got a lot of other projects in mind that I want to do. So hopefully works out to where I still can make projects, because I have videos posted all the way up until May of 2022. So I'm really concerned about work taking me away from what I love to do, which is woodworking. So I have planned ahead enough content until at least May of 2022. And there's an end point to where I'll stop forwarding videos that far in advance. It's just that you have to feed the algorithm of YouTube in order to grow. So that's a big part of it. And I need to lose weight. Wow, look at me. Ugh, not flattering. But that's what I want to do in the future of the channel. And I want to do like woodworking projects, larger projects. I want to eventually get a bigger lathe. I might even start doing Lego projects, like building Lego stuff. Like this channel, I think, is just going to morph into just being a creative space, to where I'm just being creative in some way, whether that's on the lathe, making bowls, making tables, making woodworking projects. It's just about being creative, I think, on the channel. So here we are, got the bowl gouged out the way I want to. You can see the cracks in all of these little pieces here. Decided, the bowl is large enough and it's gouged out enough to where I was happy with it. So I didn't risk any further damage or having something fly off the lathe at me. So decided that this was good enough for me, and decided, hey, this is going to work out. So now you can see all the shavings everywhere. We're going to get that cleaned up, and now we're going to start our favorite part, which is sanding, because you guys know how much I love sanding on this channel. So going back to kind of what I was saying earlier, I think this channel is going to eventually morph into doing a lot of different things. Who knows where we're going to be in 10 years. I really want to get into knife making. I think that would be super cool. So I think there's my shoulder. Again, shoddy camera work. So I think as this channel kind of morphs and gets older and I become a little bit more proficient at a lot of different things, I think you guys are going to see a variety of projects from me. But I think 2022 is going to be a lot of smaller projects, a lot of kind of different stuff here and there, just trying to get back into stuff because, I've got a lot going on in life, so not always able to get into the wood shop the way I want to. But I think as time goes on and things get kind of settled down, hopefully a lot sooner rather than later, you're going to start seeing a lot of different things. And I think even maybe at the end of the year, I might post like a really, like my first Lego build or something like that. I just want this to be a creative space. That's really what I'm going for with this channel. So anyway, 3rd year on YouTube. We are growing slowly but surely. Not nearly as fast as I want to, but I love making these videos, love making content, love working in the wood shop. So I'm going to continue to do that regardless of what the numbers and the analytics say. But here we are, completed, done. It looks absolutely gorgeous. Final product turned out really good. So hope you guys are liking this. Hope you guys share my content and stuff with other folks. You know, all that stuff that every YouTuber says ever. But really happy with the direction of the channel. Hopefully work doesn't take me out of the wood shop and that I have a lot more opportunity to make stuff. But don't forget to subscribe, like it, share it, all that stuff. Leave a comment. And happy birthday to us. And I'll see you guys in the next project. All right. Peace. Okay, so the project is done. Happy 3rd birthday to the channel. So we have been doing YouTube now for 3 years, and this is just a culmination of everything we did last year. So I'm actually filming this. Today is November 7th, but I'm just concerned I won't have time to make a birthday project, but this essentially encompasses everything that we have done over the past year, and I'm pretty sure I probably went over that in the commentary. Absolutely gorgeous. You can see all the cool different glitters and the colored pencils and the confetti and everything else that we had to add to this. So going on year 4, and this is covered in wax, that's why I keep polishing it like that. So year 4, I've got some work situations that I'm hoping that I'll be able to continue to put out a weekly video. I'm sure I probably went over that in the commentary because of one of my jobs, you know, takes me away from here. I can't make stuff. So hopefully that I continue to be able to do that. 2022 is going to be kind of touch and go, but I've got videos posted all the way up until around springtime, so hopefully I'll still be here to keep putting out videos for you guys. So want to continue to grow the channel, obviously. Wanted to get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the birthday, but we weren't able to, so I'm sitting around somewhere between 727 subscribers, somewhere around there. So next year definitely we'll hit that, you know, hopefully, but I'm going to keep making projects regardless of all that. So hope you guys liked it. Hope you guys continue to enjoy the channel. We're going to do some different things. I'm probably going to start doing like Lego projects, more you know, metal projects, get into forging, just things that we can create, because that's essentially what I want the channel to be, just creative. So hope you guys liked it. Hope you got something out of it, and I'll check you guys out in the next project. So happy birthday to us. All right, peace.